Oh, look at that. So I went live without playing our little intro, but I'm gonna do it anyhow because why not? Failure technology and it's great. It'll be fun. Well, hey everybody. There we go. Now we did it right. Didn't run the commercial because you know what? I'm late. It's my fault. It's all good. So yeah, trying to get out of Charlotte today has been something else. We're gonna try and jump into this as quick as we can. Good to see everybody. I'm gonna drag Jeff in here because why not? That's what we're supposed to do. And he gets weird if I don't bring him in. He's like, man, what happened? Why can't I be on the
Nobody
screen?
loves. Let me
Oh,
go eat some worms. Hey,
right.
hey, can I show people my special fueling shoes that ES Advantage gave me over the weekend?
Yes, you should absolutely. The Fuel Island shoes are in
The
effect.
Fuel Island shoes, specifically for fueling your truck, but only if you have white socks on.
Right. Well, you could wear those special yellow socks that they gave you as well.
Oh yeah, they also gave me socks.
I'm
So
just saying, ES hooked us up with some shower stuff. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, full disclosure. I actually gave my shower shoes away to a guy today at the Pilot in Charlotte. He walked up to the truck. He said, "Hey man, I just cleaned up the front parking lot for $2. Just trying to get some money for me and my wife so we can get some food." And when I looked at his feet, I watched him walk across the parking lot, and he was hurting. He was wearing flip flops that couldn't have been more than paper thin, and they were too small for his feet. And as he walked away, I thought, I've got a thing. I gave him the new flip flops, brand new ES Success in Trucking flip flops, and like no doubt, the guy hugged me. He started dancing. The dude was happy. ES coming through for people. Just saying. What do you think?
I think it's time for the surcharge
Let's do that thing. Give me
because
a
we got
second. Here we
special
go.
guests today that
That's
whose
right. I
time
don't
is
want to keep
valuable.
them out there too long. I apologize, gentlemen. We'll get there quickly. Man, talk about clutch timing on all this. This was insane. Oh, Lord. I got to find buttons so I don't fail at technology. Where's. I'm losing things on my screen. All right, there we go. We'll be right back. So, this week's natural diesel fuel cost average went up 0.099. I know for some people in the world, they're like, oh no. For those of us contracted to someone like a Swift Transportation with a ridiculous fuel surcharge, we love it because honestly, we make more money on the fuel surcharge when the prices go up. The higher the fuel surcharge goes, or the higher the fuel price goes, the higher the fuel surcharge goes. And we start making money easier without even getting good fuel mileage at some point. Right now, you're going to need to have at least a pretty decent fuel mileage to make it balance out. But yeah, so check this out. The national price went up 0.099 to 3.905. West Coast Pad 5 also went up 0.090 to 4.55. That brings our fuel surcharge at the wonderful Swift Transportation up to 0.436. I got to kill some of this light. Good Lord. To 0.436. That's a change of 0.018 to the positive, and the West Coast fuel surcharge stayed at 10 cents. We're going to get out of here because we got more important stuff to do. Hang tight. We'll be right back. Jeff, we're here, and I didn't make your screen appear because technology is not my friend right now. We have amazing guests on for you guys today. I haven't looked at any of the chat. I apologize to you guys. Uh, Apparently, my Windows wants to restart right now. That's great. No, jeez, what a day! Stop it. Save me. Uh, all you people in the chat, we're gonna get back to you here in just a second. But I want to bring in our guests. First, we have Bruce Mallinson, the man, the myth, the legend. Oh my gosh, there he is. I am a fanboy and I can't help it. Welcome,
Thank,
Bruce.
thank you. I
I
appreciate that.
I warned you, Bruce.
I can't help it. Look. I've been listening to you for as long as I can remember, and every time I think about getting you on the show, I'm like, ooh. and I can't help myself. And we also have Pete Sharp from Pittsburgh Power as well, and he's going to be in here telling us smart stuff because we're not smart guys, Jeff and I, when it comes to this stuff. We think so until people like you come around.
Well, you notice my title this week, Charlie.
Official, not a mechanic. I like it. I didn't even notice that today.
So Peter Bruce, I heard you say some things on the Power Hour, which is I consider Kevin a friend, even though we've only spoken a few times over the last 15 years because I've learned so much from him. About these new engines and if they're properly maintained, and that's the key, folks, proper maintenance. We're looking at them lasting a lot longer than, say, that we always thought 700 to 800,000 miles and we need to rebuild them. That's not looking like the case, is it?
No, it's not. Let's start back with the NTC series Cummins. Prior to September of 87, they did not have the lower press fit liner. And if you went 300 to 400,000, you were about finished. And then
Right.
the lower press fit liner, which held the liner tighter and eliminated cavitation, that took us up over 500,000. And then the N14. The N14 computer controlled would run upwards to 1,000,000, 1,200,000. We took some apart at 1,200,000 when we shouldn't have, but the customer just said, I'm concerned. It's 1,200,000. A fellow by the name of Bradshaw, I think his name was Charley Bradshaw, out of North or South Carolina. He ran something like 2.2 million on an N14, put a set of rod and main bearings in and a set of injectors. So it is possible. So Pete and I were talking, we've had this max mileage fuel-borne catalyst for 5 years now, and we're seeing a drastic decrease in engine rebuilds. Everybody that's using it, their engine is clean inside. And if you think about it, there's two items. If you don't abuse the truck, there's two items that wear out the engine. One is the soot and carbon caused by combustion, and that's what the max mileage attacks, and it eliminates 70% of that. The other is silicon, and silicon is the fine dirt that gets past the air filter. So if you do oil analysis, if you run our OPS bypass filter and do oil analysis every 25 or 30,000, we get to see the silicon. And that's the first thing I look at on an oil analysis to see how much dirt is coming past the air filter. So we have these fleet air filters, which are a triple layer of foam, and you wash them and you treat them with oil. Pete will tell you more about those. But with the fleet air filter, the bypass oil filtration system, and the proper maintenance, we feel that you're going to start seeing 2 million miles out of these engines because we are just having no soot inside and hardly any dirt.
That's what I love to hear because I just got into this 23. I'm 138,000 miles into this thing. I started the max mileage at about 17,000. It was either 17 or 27,000 miles. And once I started mixing it in the tanks before I put fuel in, I actually saw the slight fuel bump increase, which made me happy because it was already good to start with. And I feel amazing and very hopeful. I got to tell you.
What engine are you running, Charlie?
It's the what's in this thing, Jeff? I'm sorry.
The DD15.
Thank you.
Okay.
I know more
In my
about Charlie's truck
Cascadia, I
than he does.
apologize.
So,
Yeah.
the rule is every 500,000 miles, you put a new torsional damper on. If it's an engine that we have the mercury-filled engine balancer on, you put that on with it. But once you buy the balancer, you never have to buy it again. But every 500,000, you put a new torsional damper, and you also bring it in and we clean, or you take it to a DPF Alternatives.
Right.
And you get the DPF washed. And so long as you're using the max mileage fuel-borne catalyst, you'll never pay for another DPF washing.
That's what I'm hoping for.
So at 500,000, you wash the ash out of it, and then you put it back in, and you run another 900 to or 400 to 500,000, and we wash it again. And again, now you're looking at your second torsional damper, and around.
Right.
The old rule was a 500,000 mile, you should have the drive shaft gone through. We are seeing that to 800, 900,000 miles now because the new automatics were eliminating a lot of shock to the drivetrain. The engines are so sophisticated that they're not shocking the drivetrain. So if you have a standard or need transmission work or a clutch in the 800 to a million mile range, that's the time to take the drive shaft to a good drive shaft shop. You have it rebuilt, you have it straightened and balanced, and they do go out of round.
Right.
And every 250,000 miles or so, you have the valves and injectors adjusted. Maintenance like that, we feel that you're going to start seeing almost 2 million miles out of these new trucks.
That's going to be amazing because I just retired. Well, it was a year ago when I picked this truck up. I retired my old 07 Century, and it's got 1.8 million miles on it. And I mean, it still doesn't have any bad oil consumption. It has the exact same oil consumption, maybe slightly more. It was at about a gallon per 20,000 miles, which was what it was at after I got it back from my rebuild from the Detroit and Ocala. So, before that, before the rebuild, it was a gallon every 200 miles on the way there.
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
That was expensive. But
yeah, Charley and I compare numbers all the time between the two of us. We have this friendly competition going on cost. And at the time he was putting his gallon of oil in every 20,000, I'm on the extended oil drains now with the OPS, and I would go 75,000 miles between oil drains to 100. I think the longest I got was 110 before they told me to change my oil, and not a drop of oil went in that thing.
Wow.
And Charlie's just like, yeah, whatever, man.
Whatever.
and just to put my number out there, my last fill up, which was yesterday, I'm at 898,069 miles.
Wow.
As of my last fill up. And you personally looked at my last oil sample, Bruce, and called me about it. And we had a thing with the base problem. And I see that you've solved that with that additive.
That's correct. Pete, you want to add some things to what you should do for the routine maintenance to hit the 2 million mile mark?
Yeah. So one of the things, like with the overhead, the overhead cams have changed a lot. We don't have them going out of spec as often, but I recommend 100,000 miles the first time because we do have more initial wear on the engine. Also, we're assuming it was set correctly to begin with. And we're always looking for fuel mileage. If the overhead isn't right, we're not going to get it. So I like to see the overhead set at 100,000 miles the first time, and then 250 from that point.
You know what else with that, Pete? Every time we bring a truck in, we pressurize the intake system
for a boost.
And I'm going to let Pete talk about that and tell what the percentage of leaks we find.
By the way, let me give Pete a good introduction here, and I apologize for this. Pete Sharp, for anyone who doesn't know, is the vice president of Pittsburgh Power. So he's another really, really smart guy. Like that, he's for real.
And Pete, because nobody is willing to ask this question because you sound like an idiot if you ask. Can you explain to everybody what running the overhead means?
Okay. Yeah, that is a term that people call it running the overhead, setting the rack. There's a couple different names, but we're adjusting the valves and the injectors and the Jake brake if you have one, which most trucks do, and putting everything back to spec. So all the engine manufacturers will have a certain setting for their injectors and their valves and a Jake brake, and we just make sure that all the clearances are correct.
Yeah, because Charlie and I were both guilty of that for probably the first 500,000 miles that we ran trucks. And we would take it to a shop and say, Kevin Rutherford says I should run my overhead. And they'd be like, well, what exactly do you want? And I'm like, no, I don't know. Run the overhead. That's what
Run the overhead, bro. Come on.
So let me tell you, back in the days of the big cams with the aluminum rocker boxes, and the reason I emphasize aluminum rocker boxes because aluminum expands and contracts more than cast iron. It was imperative after you did an in chassis that you came back at 10,000 miles. We set them. And then we wanted to see you about every, was it, Pete, was it 50 or 100,000?
So the fixed time engines, we would do 100, and the step timing engines, we would do at 80,000.
Wow.
It changed more.
And we found that people that came back religiously, we would get 33% more engine life out of their engine between rebuilds if the overhead was kept adjusted properly. If we did the overhead for them,
That's
it was
tremendous.
that critical.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's one of those things. When someone starts in our group starts dropping fuel mileage, we automatically say, run the overhead and check the charge air cooler.
Yeah. Well, Pete, tell them how we check the charge air cooler.
So there's a couple of different ways to check it. The old school way, which we did for years, which I did work in a shop, was pretty simple. We would take the piping from the air cleaner to the turbo off, which let you inspect the turbo wheel, the compressor wheel. If dirt went through the engine, you would see it. If it was damaged or thrown oil, it would give you a heads up that there might be a problem. So you get a little visual check there. And then we would cap that open end of the turbo and put some air, 6 to 8 pounds of air pressure, didn't take much, and pressurize the whole intake system. So the turbo is pressurized, the piping, the air-to-air, the intake manifold. There's a lot of places for a leak.
Right.
And we would simply listen, feel around, sometimes get a spray bottle and check where a leak could be. Now, we've since bought a smoke machine, which is really handy. So we plug, same thing, you cap the turbo, you would plug this in, and it would create pressure, and that way you could see where the leak's coming from. Where that's really nice is like on the Acer Cats with the twin turbos. You could hear a leak, but you couldn't tell where it was coming from. With the smoke, you could see it. Same thing to air-to-airs. They'll leak, you can hear them leak, but you can't tell where it's coming from.
Right.
Smoke, it shows up. And it's nice when you tell a customer, you have a boost leak, let me show you where it's at, and they can see it, the smoke coming out of the air-to-air or the intake manifold or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So those are, and that's not a owner-operator would own the machine, but they can make the little adapter with the elbow and the plug in it to check it themselves. We check every truck that comes in the shop, no matter what. Even if you were here 4 months ago and you come back in our shop, we check it. It doesn't take long. I would say most of the trucks, 70, 75% have some leak. A lot of times it's minor. It's a loose clamp, a bad clamp, a hose needs replaced. And then, of course, you get into intake manifold gaskets being blown.
Right.
Maybe the hose between the intake manifold and the air compressor. There's a lot of places for a leak. And then, of course, the air itself can leak. So it's really imperative to get that checked on a regular basis, not only for fuel mileage, but, again, maintenance. If you have a leak, you're not going to have a complete combustion in the cylinders because you don't have the air. You're going to run hot on the pyrometer. If you don't have a gauge, you won't know that. So it's pretty critical to get the air-to-air checked, or simply check for a boost leak, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I used to do mine fairly often. I went to Rutherford's community and had someone there teach me how to make one. I made one out of PVC caps and some aluminum and some fittings, and I would go in there and check it out, and it was great because zero drop. You're like, good to go. All right,
Right.
And it was great.
Let me tell you what else helps find leaks. If you buy a used truck, and let's say it has 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 miles or more, you should bring it in and we do the diesel force cleaning. And that shows a lot of leaks in the exhaust system. Pete, why don't you talk about the diesel force cleaning?
Okay, so the diesel force cleaning, there's a machine we have, and we put a liquid in there, and we will run it through the intake and exhaust. The liquid turns to foam in the machine, and the truck is running. And while the truck's running, the computer will have it open and close the EGR valve to clean that up. It'll open and close the VG turbo to clean that up. And it takes about an hour to run this stuff through there. And it literally cleans up all the soot that's in the intake manifold or intake ports of the cylinder head, the exhaust manifold, the turbo, the EGR valve, the whole way back to the DPF. And that once we're done doing that, we'll do a parked regen, because now everything's at the DPF. So we
Right.
burn stuff off and then change the oil and filters. And when we first took this on, we're like, okay, are we sure it's going to work? We took the turbo off, we took the EGR valve off, intake manifold off, looked at everything, reassembled it, ran the cleaning through it, and then took everything off again. And the back side of the turbo looked like you pulled it out of a new box. It was that clean. It makes that much difference.
Wow.
If you look inside the head, you see raw cast iron. You'd think it was a brand new head. And then
That's amazing.
now that we are a DPF alternative franchisee, now we can wash the DPF. And then the engineers check all the sensors, and any sensors that didn't get cleaned, we have an ultrasonic cleaner that we clean them. A lot of the times the sensor fails, it's because of soot and carbon. Well,
Right.
the max mileage catalyst and or the what was you just talking about, the cleaning, Pete?
The diesel force.
Brain fade, that's what happens when you're 74, right?
Look, I've got it at 52, so you're doing great, Bruce.
So anyway, now we take the DPF off and wash it, and now you're good to go for another 500,000 miles.
Wow. Yeah, I got a quick question here from Blackbeard. He said, what kind of average cost would it be looking at on an X15 for an overhead?
For the overhead, you're looking, depending on the chassis, 3 to 4 hours of labor. So depending on the labor rate, so at our shop, you're looking at about $450 to get it done, and a valve cover gasket.
So are you ready for this, Pete? We
Yes.
had a guy that had one done out in the wild,
Oh,
set up by our on-road services. It cost him over $1,200 just for the overhead.
My God, what they do?
highway
I
robbery.
don't know.
Yeah.
There was no hugging involved. Nobody loved him afterwards.
You know,
I bet
if
they
he
loved
would,
him.
if he would have talked to us, I don't know if he could have gotten up to your shop or not, but I'm sure he could have found a better labor rate than that.
Right. It was
Even-
just insanity.
Even at $200 an hour, that would be too much.
Right?
Yeah.
You could set injectors in 6 hours.
And
So-
that was a simple overhead. Like,
Yeah.
as far as I know, I don't think there was anything crazy out of whack, nothing major replaced. It was just to run the overhead.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
was like, oh,
the only thing that hurt my feelings last time I had mine done was about 200,000 miles ago. And I had it done at a shop in Georgia, and they had to let the truck sit overnight because they wanted it completely cold.
right.
Mhm.
Is that a thing?
Yes. So
Okay.
you put it pretty much at ambient temperature when you do the overhead. Now, what we'll do is if you pull in, just say you make an appointment with us and you say, I'll be there the night before, we ask you to shut the truck off at 5 in the morning, tilt the hood. That helps cool it down. We get it in, we pull the valve cover off, and we'll throw a box fan on top of the engine for an hour to bring it down. A couple of things. One, when it's hot, it's really hard for the tech to set the overhead very well, and they're probably not going to do a good job because they're burning their hands. And the settings are to be done at ambient temperature, so you're not going to get a true setting when the engine's hot.
Like
like
when you
Jonah Green in
when you test your tire pressure, right, Charlie?
Right? Do it in the morning in the dark, people, after your truck's been sitting for a while so that you're not getting all these crazy things.
Yeah.
So Jonah Green just said Kenworth told him $1,400 for an overhead. So there you go. It's not an uncommon thing. That's crazy to me.
Pete, what would we be on a W9 or a 389 on the next 15 to set the overhead?
So 3 to 4 hours at $135 an hour. So
Right.
$450 and a valve cover gasket. So
There you go.
Christopher Davis jumped in with, I need some help on a 23 Cascadia, 79,000 miles, running catalyst, last 19,000 miles. My truck is calling for a DPF ash cleaning. Any help?
So it shouldn't, unless he had, say, excessive idling,
Right.
or there's an issue with an injector, something that's causing it. More than likely, my guess would be it's a sensor issue, because you just don't have enough miles at 79,000 miles to that it
Right?
should be cleaned.
God, I would hope not.
No.
My advice would be for him to get by our shop and let our electrical engineers check out the system. By the way, Christopher, my mother's name was Davis, so you may be my cousin.
Probably so.
I tell people I'm a half Davis.
Hey, Jeff, you want
So
to dip into Hamey's questions? He's got a bunch of them in there.
yeah, he does. So this is a pretty proactive member of our group here. He asks a lot of questions, and we're like, well, you know, we're going to have these guys on the show on Tuesday. Let's ask them.
Right? He's
So let's
ready.
start with his first. He says, I got my DPF filter changed when my truck was 900,000 miles. Do I need to change, clean it now? I'm at 1.09 million, or still have another 100K for cleaning.
Oh, I don't think it needs cleaned. Is he running the max mileage catalyst?
He is, yeah.
Yeah. No, if he had cleaned at 900,000, no, he's okay. He should run another 300,000 to 400,000.
Yeah, I think he had it actually replaced. So he's got it brand new at 900K. So that's only just over 100,000 miles on the thing.
And he said also that he's using max mileage, and used the 1 ounce every 25 gallon mixture, but my miles per gallon didn't climb much, just about 0.2. But when he started putting 3 ounces every 50 gallons, it jumps to 0.5. I think because his truck is already 1.09 million miles. So I need to put more max mileage just based on his route. I don't know.
Wow, that's interesting. And I give him credit for trying that. That's very interesting. We're going to have to get a few more people to try that. We've never done that. So
I could tell you, Bruce, what both Charlie and I found was when we first started using max mileage. First of all, I was dosing incorrectly. I was filling my tanks and then putting it in. And then you told me, don't do that. So I started paying more attention to how much fuel I'd use and put it in before I fill. But the other thing I did was, and I didn't go as much as him, but you know how the squeeze bottle is? Rather than going to the 1 ounce for the 25 gallons, I'm going up to the top of the rim of the spout.
Right
And
at
so
the
it's
turn,
just a
right?
little bit more. And then I saw a 0.3 verifiable mileage gain.
okay, now
Right.
Just a little bit more than
catalyst,
recommended.
the catalyst was not intended to make fuel mileage. Its
Right.
intention was to burn the soot and carbon. And to do that, it's a hotter, faster burn. So think of a circle, 360 degrees. On standard diesel fuel, the crankshaft rotates 15 degrees from the time diesel fuel is injected until it fires, 15 degrees. With the catalyst, it fires in 10 degrees. So it's a faster, hotter, cleaner burn. And the fact that it does increase torque slightly, and you drive it properly, that's why you're seeing the fuel mileage increase. But the name max mileage is a little leading. It's just that it's going to drastically extend the engine life.
Right.
So,
You know,
so my question to you was this, though. But by playing around with it like that, is there any danger that we might break something?
No, not
I
at
mean,
all.
not using it exactly as intended.
Yeah. So we've not had, like, I've actually done this on my personal vehicle as well as the old company Dodge we had. Put the wrong amount in. You do the math in your head wrong. You're not paying attention. And I've done.
right.
And so instead of putting, like in the Dodge, it would take an ounce because it's a 33-gallon tank, and I'd usually fill it up about 25 gallons. I doubled it, not thinking. I just ran down the road and put some more diesel in it at 100 miles to thin it out. But even if you double it up, it's not going to hurt anything. You're just, spending money you don't need to. It's not going to hurt anything. We've had enough people to do that to know that it doesn't hurt. Now, I've not had someone throw a gallon in a tank. I don't know what happened there.
That sounds like
that sounds like an expensive mistake to me.
It would be
right.
But if you,
I mean, we penciled it out on Charlie's truck mainly, but it's 0.7 of a penny a mile is what Charlie's spends on max mileage.
0.007 cents per mile.
So it's you got to look at the cost of it and the gains you might get from doing something different.
Well, here's an easier way to look at it. The average truck that doesn't use it spends $7,000 to $12,000 a year on maintenance on emissions. When you run the catalyst, you spend zero. So it costs you basically almost a penny a mile, but it saves you 6 cents a mile. So it's giving you a 500% return. How'd you like to go to a stockbroker on January 2nd, give them $1,000 and say, next January 2nd, I want to see that be 5,000.
Right.
But that's the return you get with the catalyst. So the penny a mile to use it versus saving you 5 to 6 cents a mile.
Right.
Yeah, that's
So
insane.
he's averaging, and again, this is a guy that does pretty much everything right. He'll experiment around with stuff. In his 2016, he's got a Cascadia as well. So he's doing the DD15 with the D12 transmission, 9.2 to 9.5.
That's fantastic.
But he's running Dallas to Laredo and back, which is pretty flat, as you know. But that is, I can tell you.
And look at what he's doing it. He's doing it through the night, so he's not
right.
Traffic.
Yeah, no traffic, good route.
I'm at 7.85 lifetime, and summertime really kills me because I idle a lot because I'm old and I can't handle temperatures. So my 30 days actually below 7 at this point, 6.95. But I'm idling down here in Texas pretty much. The only time the truck gets turned off is when I'm not in it. In the wintertime, I get closer to 8. But that's something that we're doing is we're running numbers on if an APU might be actually worth it with fuel prices the way they are. In the past,
right now.
For you, no, you team.
No. I was going to talk about fuel. I apologize. Finish what you're saying. APU in the past.
In the past, it hasn't penciled out, but nowadays, I'm thinking it does.
So you also have to look out with an APU wear and tear on the truck.
Right.
You're eliminating a lot of wear because it's not idling, and just creature comforts. You don't have that engine shaking. APUs are expensive, but I think they absolutely make sense. And like I said, you just could not run your truck in the South with the temperatures we've been having lately. I mean, you just don't have a choice.
Right.
Years ago, Cummins and Caterpillar did a study, and that was back when the engines were mechanical. And they said it's 3 times harder on an engine to idle than it is to pull a load across the highway.
Wow.
So if you idle for 8 hours, you virtually put 24 hours of wear on. And in 24 hours, if you're crossing Iowa and Kansas, you should have gone about 1,100 miles.
Right.
So let's say it's 1,000, 1,100 miles of wear and tear every night you idle that engine. That to me makes an APU worth the money.
Absolutely. I agree.
Now you're just making me feel dumb for not having one.
What do you do if you get caught in an ice storm, snowstorm on Donner Pass, and you're sitting for 3 days and you're idling?
And that's even worse than wintertime because you can't keep the heat up. At least in the summer, you're maintaining heat. So that stay warm, the room stays warm. It's a little bit less of an issue idling in the summer than it is in the winter. It becomes a problem in the winter because you can't maintain heat in the after treatment. And that's when things really start to plug up.
Okay. See, for me, I run a team. My wife drives nights, and honest to God, I avoid places where it snows and gets icy because I don't like it, and I'm tired of doing that stuff now. I did it for enough years that I'm over it. So, I cheat. It's
okay.
like I'm not a real driver.
If I was an owner operator, I'd stay in the South in the wintertime.
Oh, gosh, I wish I could all the time.
Not have any ice and mag chloride on your truck. Look at how much better that is for the truck.
Right. Oh,
yeah. For Charley, it's everything above the 70 is Canada to Charley.
Oh, absolutely. I-40 above I-40, I feel is Canada. So there you go.
Well,
and then I played that game, and I was down there in San Antonio, and we got down to -10 that one year. That did not work out for me at all. And my ECM died while we were there. It was great.
So how many times when you did drive on ice and snow and you were on black ice and like the top speed for that trip was 45 miles an hour, and look how long it took, and yet you didn't get paid not 1 cent more for that.
Right.
But yeah, you put your rig in danger, you put your life in danger, you put all the vehicles around you in danger.
Right.
You're going across Missouri. Missouri, to me, was always the worst. Missouri and Kansas. The wind's coming out of Seattle at 45 mph. It'll take you from the right lane, put you in the left lane.
Yeah.
And as you're sliding off in the left lane, you just hope that gravel there is going to stop you.
Right.
Well, Charley had it even worse. He was running Cabela's, and Charlie, you had to. If the road was open, the truck had to be in motion. That was the contract.
We were expected to keep moving, and there was days where I literally drove 5 miles an hour for an entire driving shift, and my entire goal that day, as I'm looking out either window to make sure that as the trailer's trying to pass me, that I stay ahead of the trailer. That was my whole game plan for the entire trip, and I did that twice a week for, good Lord, what was it, 3 years, I think. And I'd be coming back from Sydney, Nebraska with 5,000 pounds worth of canoes in a dry van trailer.
Yeah, that's that.
Oh man,
You didn't get paid a cent more, did you?
not a penny more. And
See,
I'm so glad those days are gone.
See, we have it wrong in this industry.
Right.
It should be, if you take a dog in to be groomed and he's a bigger dog versus a little dog, it costs more. If he's got certain hair, it costs more.
Right.
Yet in trucking, when we're driving in bad weather, the rate should go up at least 1.5%. Or 1.5 times.
Right.
The load's going to pay $1,000. It should pay $1,500.
I'm with you. Let's make that happen. Woohoo! I love it.
Huh?
I might actually go driving that stuff. No, I still won't drive
So-
that stuff. I don't have to.
Bruce, you and I talked about this on the phone, and I wanted to put you on the spot a little bit here. There's this other additive out there that people are all talking about, and we talked about running that alongside max mileage, because these other additives, they don't do what max mileage does.
That's correct.
All they do is they provide a cetane boost and lubricity. That's it. They're not going to help keep the DPF clean.
They do not. We recommend Lucas, the Lucas fuel stabilizer, upper cylinder cleaner. It's to add lubricity, and on trucks 2002 and older, especially N14s, we really want you to run the Lucas for the lubricity. And the max mileage catalyst to burn the fuel. The max mileage is the only true catalyst. Everything else, when you look at a gallon jug, you can only put so much stuff in there, right? So if you're going to have so much cetane, so much lubricity, so much injector cleaner, then you're not going to treat 3,200 gallons with 1 gallon. Right. The Lucas 1 gallon treats 400 gallon. Now it costs about $36 too versus $235. But look at the difference in the treating. Whenever we came out with the winter blend, 50% of the winter blend is anti-gel. That's why it takes 2 ounces to 25 gallon versus 1. So we're trying to keep, and we want to keep the catalyst, strictly catalyst to burn soot and carbon. We don't want to put a bunch of other stuff in it. If you want to go ahead and put the other stuff in, the cetane, it all helps. Diesel fuel today is not very good, just like gasoline isn't very good. Mm-hmm. So, hey, when we were kids and you were dumping gasoline into your lawnmower, you saw the vapors come off, right?
Right.
Yep.
The vapors are what burn. Today, when you're dumping gasoline, you hardly even smell it, let alone have vapors. Well, they've done the EPA has really hoarded the diesel fuel the same way. So you've got to make it better fuel. And if you want to put other additives in with it, be my guest.
Yeah, it's like, picking up fuel in California and you're looking at the pump and it says, 90% biomass. And I don't know anyone that doesn't, if they're paying attention at all, if they don't see a fuel mileage drop, I don't know, there's magic happening, because it's just insane to me.
Yeah. And Newsom wants to be president, right?
Right.
You can't even run a state, let alone try to run a country.
So, hey, Jeff,
people get excited whenever the California fuel ends up being cheaper without the IFTA. Right. But I have done I used to run the I-5 corridor a lot, and since they came out with that carb fuel, I can measure a half a mile per gallon drop in my fuel mileage if I put that in my tank.
I'm sure.
So, you know, sometimes California beats Oregon by 5 cents, but that 5 cents just goes out my weed burner. Yes. So
Right.
you gotta know all that. What do we got?
So, Bear Hunter, this is one of our long term people, Sean. He's got we've got a couple of questions about him actually. I actually want to get into his transmission and rear ends and all that stuff. But can you decipher his message, Jeff?
428K, lots of idle. DPF pump level sensor and filter just got replaced. That's got to be 60 days, Sean, because we don't have a 70-day.
Right.
Miles per gallon is 8.75 at 70 miles an hour plus. What do I need to look at having done? Can you help increase those numbers? So here's the thing with Sean. Most of the trucks that are spec for Swift really like to run about 60, 62 miles an hour. That's where we get our best fuel mileage. This is weird that he's getting 8.7 miles per gallon at 70 miles an hour.
And I can give you some speeds and RPMs that so at 60 miles an hour, he's estimating about 1025 to 1030 RPM. At 70 miles an hour, he's estimating 1210 RPM. I don't know what's going on with his truck because he absolutely can show us that he's getting way better fuel mileage at 70, and we'll just say 70 plus because we have a contract that says we're not supposed to do above 72. So we're just going to say 70 plus, and he truly does better fuel mileage up in those ranges. So I don't know what's going on.
And we've verified it through gauges. So
what engine,
it's
transmission, rear, and what kind of truck?
He's in a Kenworth T680. I don't know enough about the truck, and we could not figure out the rear ends. Or did we actually? Wait. Maybe I got.
So this is weird, Bruce. That even my truck is a 2016. The rear end ratio is not on my post sticker. My past trucks all had that on the post sticker, so I have no idea what
264 rear.
264. What transmission?
Let's see. Main trans says Eaton Endurant. I'm reading the picture of his post sticker. All it says is Eaton Endurant E. That's all I got. Engine says 1700 400. Don't know what any of that means, Bruce.
What terrain is he running?
All over the country.
So what happens sometimes? Think of a roller coaster. It goes up and down hills and it doesn't have an engine, but it gets pulled up the first hill. But every hill after that isn't quite as high.
Right.
So it accelerates going down, it accelerates through the dip, and it starts to lose a little as it gets near the top. And then it makes it speed back up going down the other side. So if you run cruise control, it wants to use all the power it has to hold that throttle. And it doesn't accelerate in the dip. I think this fella is a really good driver. He pre-accelerates before he's at the bottom of the grade, holds the power through the dip and on up the other side. And as the hill starts to level out a little bit, he's backing out of the throttle, letting the speed come down a little bit. And then when he goes down the other side.
Well, Sean, there you go. Bruce thinks you might be a good driver. I still think you're crazy as hell, but that's cool.
with the slower speed, he's really low on the RPM. So I mean, if he's running 1,050, I think that's what you said. He's not. It's just too low of an RPM.
Right.
So
and I thought the same thing.
Bringing the RPM a little bit, even though you're bringing up speed, is going to help the efficiency of the engine some.
See,
I mean, like on my truck at 60 miles an hour, I'm right at 12.5 on my RPMs when I cruise. So he's a bit below that.
Yeah,
and I'm just slightly below that 1200. So, and you'll be happy to know that Bear Hunter agrees with you, Bruce. He says you are exactly correct. He is a good driver.
Yeah. Well, And he knows how to find the sweet spot of his truck.
Right.
And they're all a little different. Each truck, you kind of have to play with it speed wise. I've had a customer complain about fuel mileage, and he was running a little bit faster, and I had him slow down just a couple miles an hour, and it picked up like 3/10. And I mean, that's free money in your pocket.
Absolutely.
And 3 miles an hour is not going to make a difference at the end of the day as far as how you travel, the distance.
Right.
And
Right.
the price of fuel, 3 miles or 3/10 of a mile to gallon is a big deal. But each truck's a little different. You kind of have to experiment with what speed, 64, 66, 62. Try to where your sweet spot's at.
We need to have Bear Hunter be one of your driver trainers.
Uh,
except well, look, I agree. However, his speed will get him in trouble on a contract thing, but that's all right. We don't care. I still love the guy personally. I think he's great. He's hung out with us in Vegas and some other things we've done, and we love that guy. So
yeah.
I'd like to go for a ride with him and record how he's doing it. He's good.
I dig it. Yeah. The only thing that I have on that is I'm like Jeff. I'm just under 1200 with running right at 60 miles an hour, and then I see bear hunters at 1210 at 70, 1250 at 73. I'm like, man, that the rear end, the tranny, the whole thing, it all makes my head hurt why it works the way that it does. But I don't think his truck is one of the normal Swift spec
No.
trucks.
We saw one of these a couple years ago too, where this woman had gotten a truck from Swift, and you like to think that if you get a truck from the carrier that you're leasing to, we won't get into good, bad, whatever, but it should be spec for that operation, right? In this, she had these just crazy gears in her truck. We found out is what it was, and a very similar thing.
Let me tell you what 264s in direct gear with low pro 22.5 at 65 mile an hour is, as soon as I find it on my chart here. And I think that he's running an overdrive. So 264s, direct gear. This is a 13 speed double over. So this is an 11th gear. Is 1460 RPM. So he's actually running in single over or double over. Single over would be 0.85 and double over is 0.73.
Okay.
Now, is his truck an automatic or?
It is. It's an automatic.
An automatic. Be interesting to see. I'd like to know, and I wish he'd call me and let me know what transmission that is and what is his 1-to-1 gear, whether it's, you said he's a 12 speed?
Right.
So 1-to-1 is probably 11th. Yeah, there he says 12 speed. And I'll bet 12th gear is a 0.85 overdrive. Let me tell you something else. 308 at 65 in a double over 18, low pro 22.5 is 1265 RPM. So let's say 1260. That's with a 308. So I think he has a single over transmission, but whatever he's got going, it's very efficient.
It seems to be doing him well, and he does like to drive fast. I look. I'm to a point now where 60 miles an hour truly is just my happy. I sit over in the right lane and I wave at all the people that only use one finger to wave at me, and I toot my horn at the little kids going by and that sort of thing. And I'm just happy. I'm not stressed out at the end of the day. I'm not tired when I'm driving around 70 miles an hour. I notice, I get it in my shoulders, my back, my head, my neck, and I'm just worn out at the end of the day. And since I went back down to slower speeds, I'm so much more calm.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, how slow did you get with Chewy? You got that one all the way down to 57, right?
Yeah, she was running 57 with a manual 13 with a Series 60. I can't remember what the rear ends were on her, but that really was her happy place. At 57, anything below that, and it would lug a little too much if I tried to, cresting hills and the rolling hills or anything like that. And I would get about the same fuel mileage at 57 in either 13th or 12th. It didn't matter which one. It would stay pretty damn close. 13th actually got me slightly more. If I had any sort of incline at all, I would have to drop just, hit that 12 spot just to get the little ump up the hill, coast it out, roll it down, and she was happy. I love that truck still. The only thing really wrong with her is she's to that point at 1.8. She was rebuilt at about 940,000 miles. Like I said, she's about 1.8 now, and like I said, not burning oil. But the thing that had me worried about her was all the main seals between the head and between the oil pan and everything else. All of those seals are now starting to weep because they've
Sure.
been there for 1.8 million miles, and that was my big concern. I'm like, oh, that, and she
Was
was just
that
beating me up.
was that a 60 series?
Yes, sir.
And we find that the D deck threes, D deck fours, and even the twos, once you get close to 2 million mile on the block, it's done. Now we traded in what's called a 3/4 engine, and
Right.
that's from the valve cover to the oil pan, and you put all your exhaust manifold, turbo. Uh, Pete, does that come with a water pump?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so there's water. You use your alternator, your air conditioning compressor,
Fly,
got
fly
a
will have
clutch.
ECM wiring harness, that kind of stuff. It's a good value. Like Bruce said, and we're a big fan of the 60 series engines, but you
Right.
get upwards of 2 million miles, or 2 million miles, the blocks are just done. Unlike
Okay.
the 14, they really beefed up their block. We can deck them, we can line bore them, we can do a lot with them. The Detroits are just wearing out, and the most cost-effective thing to do is a 3/4 swap.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've got her parked now to where I think she's just gonna be my Mad Max vehicle when the world goes to hell, and I'm just gonna put steel all over and run through brick walls and drive through trees.
You said it was an '07.
Yeah, without the DPF.
Yeah,
So I got that '06 version of the '07, right?
good.
Are you referring to the guy in Fraser, Colorado, that did that to a bulldozer?
I would never refer to anyone else's ideas.
Yeah, one of the
So,
things too, Bruce, he called you guys about that engine, and one of the hurdles that he was facing was it was right in the middle of COVID, and there were no
right.
parts to be had
Right.
to do the next
Yeah.
level rebuild, and so he has decided to get a new truck. And we make fun of him to this day
Yes, it's
because he
fair.
said he would never get a new truck. He would drive if you were to give him a 2023, that he would sell it and buy four more like his old truck.
That's right. And
Now
then
he's
I
in
went
one.
out. I had neck surgery. I had to have three vertebrae fused because I was just getting pounded by that truck. You know what I mean? Just the old freight shaker nonsense. And I probably didn't do some upgrades I should have done on that suspension system years ago.
Yeah.
And it caught up and it beat me up. And I'm old and I'm already crippled from the army and all this nonsense. And
So
I was like, I
so
need a Cadillac.
so one of the things I wanted to touch on with both of you is, so as you know, most of our group members are lease purchase operators. They're lease purchasing a truck. With the new information, so right now at Swift, the buyout on a brand new truck on a 23 Freightliner at the end of 4 years is going to be about 80 grand. That's the buyout on these things. And so the question comes up: do I buy the truck? What's the maintenance going to be? Am I just better off getting another lease or buying that truck out? And I'm one of those people. If you're going to be in the business another decade, buy that truck. And what you're saying now about the maintenance, if you're doing the preventative maintenance and doing all these things, you're going to recoup that money over the next several years. Um, but we have contract issues with doing things like the OPS and things like that. Now, none of that is going to void an engine warranty from the factory, correct? We've already gone
Correct.
through all that. The lawsuits have been settled, right?
That's correct.
And that's their argument to this day as well. The OPS is it's going to avoid the warranty. And what happened was Swift put OPSs, had some OPSs back in the day, a while back, and everyone that had them, Bruce, did no oil samples, right? And they just said,
Changing
"Oh,
the
I never have to
filters.
change the oil." They didn't change filters, and they blew motors up, and they blamed the OPS. So that's why we have this trouble with our leasing company that I'm still fighting with, because I'm on the verge of I bought an OPS for my '07, and then I retired her just before I put it on. I'm of the thought that I should put that on here, not say anything, although I'm telling on myself right now. And I'm not going to do the extended drains. I just want to make sure that this oil is as clean as it possibly can be. I want to make this motor last a
Okay.
decade.
Have you heard me talk about the clearance between a rod and main bearing when you're going uphill?
Yes, sir.
Half a micron.
Right.
Human hair, what is that, 4 micron or 4 thousandths?
3 to 4 thousandths.
3 to 4,000. Okay.
Yes.
Your standard spin on oil filters years ago were 40 micron. Pete, do you have any idea what they're down to now? Are they somewhere like 20 and 30 micron?
The one I looked up was 25. So they vary a little bit between manufacturers, but I think it's safe to say between 20 and 30.
Okay. So now you have 20 to 30 micron dirt going through your rod and main bearings, and you're going uphill, and the clearance is a half a micron. So what do you think the dirt does to bearings?
That's got to not be good.
Scrubs them.
It wears
Yeah.
them out. So that's why you want bypass oil filtration. I've been working with bypass oil filtration since 1979. I have never seen it wear out an engine.
Right. Yeah, I'm still struggling with our leasing company's mechanical guy. That good Lord, the last time I spoke to him, he's like, "Well, send me the literature," and I'm like, "Well, it's right here on Pittsburgh Power's website, man. Just dip in there. All the stuff you need to know is right there, you know." And he's like, "Well, we'll have to talk about it," and I cannot get them to say yes. In fact, they are far more likely to just come say no to me just because. And usually, what they say is, "Well, warranty issues." And I'm like, "Nope, nope, not a valid argument." And they're like, "Well, too bad. We own the company."
So here's what I say. If you drive it properly and maintain it properly, it's not going to break. Because as a mechanic, if we leave something loose when we're building an engine, before we had a dyno, we would test drive everything. We still do, even after we build an engine or work on a truck.
Right.
If you leave a nut not loose or not properly torqued in a valve adjustment or a rod and main bearing cap, it won't make it 3.5 miles.
Wow.
If you put a camshaft in and you set the end play wrong and you start it up and it's sitting there idling, it will make enough heat in the engine that will spin the cam bearing.
Oh Lord.
If you build a differential and you calls for 8 to 10 thousandths backlash, you say, I'm going to make it 3 or 4. That way I won't get clinking when I put it in gear like an automatic. You might make it 50 miles.
Wow.
So if the mechanic did everything right and you pull the first load and you deliver and you run 1,000 miles, that engine's not coming apart unless you abuse it and don't maintain it. So that's why I don't buy extended warranties on anything.
Mm-hmm. You hear that, people?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And I'm at the point where I'm probably going to be fighting this contract thing here fairly soon because I'm going to get caught because I'm vocal about what I do and I don't hide this stuff. And even if I tried to hide it, I would rat myself out the very first time someone asked me something. I can't not talk about this stuff.
Well, so the other thing that for me, everybody knows you should be doing an oil sample on your truck every periodically. Have an oil sampling program. The OPS, if nothing else, makes it so easy to take an oil sample. I mean, literally, you just put it. There's a little thing, and it goes in the bottle. You send it off to the oil samplers, and then you guys look at it, and you can tell the health of the engine from the oil. And like I said, the last time Bruce, you're the one that actually called me, and we did a deep dive into what my analysis was, and I learn everything, something every time your people call me. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Okay, I need to be looking at that. And it for me, where my engine's at, it brings me some peace of mind because again, I own my truck clear and free, but that means that I have to have my big boy pants on a little more than
Right.
someone that doesn't. It's a little older. I have to keep up on maintenance a little more. Um, yeah, and people ask me, who do you have your oil sample through? And I'm one of those people that I'm 50, but sometimes my brain thinks I'm 90. And so I have to look it up. But that oil sampling program tells me exactly where I'm at with things,
Right.
and I don't
Yeah,
have to wonder.
I remember hearing Bruce and Kevin talking about things like, you guys would be going over an oil sample, and it always amazed me because you would mention, you know, some sort of wear metal, and you're like, oh, well, that's definitely a bearing, that's a liner, that's this, that's that, and you're like, I was just like, magic. It's like freaking magic to me because, and then I would listen to
Or
the point where they came back and 2 weeks later they're like, oh my god, so it was the main bearing. You were dead right.
Let me say something. When we go on test rides and the owner drives his truck and it's a manual, we're having a conversation. All right, he uses the clutch just to start it. Then he never touches the clutch. He never grabs a gear. You're talking to him. He's not thinking, all right, I'm in third. I got to go to fourth. I got to go up, over, and up. And then I got to pull up the lump. It's all subconscious, right?
Mhm.
Driving that truck is like you tying your shoe. Well, it's the same way with us because, like, Pete's been with me 37 years. Pete was a mechanic prior to coming with me. I was
Right.
a race car builder prior. Plus, I was in dispatch. I spent 9 years in dispatch, so I know what dispatchers go through, and it's a thankless
Right.
job.
It is
My evening job was the race car shop. So,
nice.
but anyway, let me say this, and I've said this before: Pro-Am golf tournament. Take a country club. You take your good golfers in a country club. They have a Pro-Am. So the member of that country club is an amateur, and a pro comes and he's your partner.
Right.
So they're going to tee off at 10 a.m. At 8 a.m., the amateur shows up and he's driving golf balls. He's putting golf balls. At 5 to 10, the pro shows up. He drops one ball. He hits it. He says that his amateur, which is his partner, says, come on, let's go. We're teeing off. The amateur comes unglued. He says, I can't believe I've been here for 2 hours hitting balls and practicing, and you come and you drop one ball. And the pro looks at him and said, if you didn't bring it with you, you won't find it here.
Right.
Think about that on how you guys drive a truck, shift gears, back up, all the things that you do, automatic. You don't run over curbs. I mean, when you get out of your truck and you get into a pickup truck with no trailer, you still make a wide turn, right?
Right. Absolutely. I did it in my Kia Soul. It was the most comical thing you could ever watch.
So that's how it becomes with us mechanics that put our heart and soul into what we do. Now there's mechanics that could care less. They're there for their 8 hours of pay. They hate what they do, and they just want to go home and drink beer.
Right.
That's not the people at Pittsburgh Power. We don't have that type of employee.
And that's what I love about you guys, honestly, Bruce. It is everyone that I've ever dealt with or heard from, coming out of Pittsburgh Power. I mean, the knowledge is insane. The fact that you have electrical engineers on staff just boggles the mind. And I thought when you first started doing that, I thought, why the hell doesn't everybody have this? This is genius. Why is Bruce the guy coming up with this all by himself and nobody else is doing this?
Because my mind never quits.
Right. But
my
so
mind
many
never
people have
quits. And
these.
whenever back in the mid 80s, when I met Mark Chappell, the performance parts engineer at Cummins, and I was spending a lot of time. I'd spend a week, a month out at the plant, and Pete and Gary Hoffman were running the business. And I learned so much by hanging out with these engineers and going to lunch and going to dinner. And I would sleep at Mark's house. He gave me a bedroom. And he would talk about engines from the time we got up at 6 a.m. till 11 p.m. And I'd say, Mark, we got to go to bed. We got to go to work tomorrow. And well, and so he had to go to work. I was the guest. But when you hang out with those guys, you really find out just how smart they are. And then when computers started to take over diesel engines, I said, uh-oh, what are we going to do? And I was one of those guys up until I was about 50 years old. I said, I don't need to ever know how to work a computer. Well, boy, was I wrong.
Right.
Now, part of our discussion the other day, Bruce, when I was talking to you about this, and I think we need to mention it. What you guys are talking about is your experience with your clients that do all of the things that you recommend they do, all that maintenance, and they have the OPS, the fleet air filters, and all that stuff. That's not to say that the dealerships are going to agree, that Swift's going to agree. This is your experience with your customers, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
So
over the years, especially when I first got started 47 years ago, the majority of owner operators did their own work. We just supplied parts. And they would come in, and sometimes it'd still be 7 o'clock at night, and there's 2 or 3 owner operators and me standing there at the parts counter, and we're talking, and I'm listening because I was young. And we would try different things. And back then we had steel mills in Western Pennsylvania, guys that haul dump bodies, hauling coke and iron ore products, and they would pass my shop 3 times a day. And we didn't have cell phones, but they would stop in, and we'd have maybe 10 or 15 minutes to make the change because they had three runs they had to make, or 3 drops. Hold on a second. My little great white hunter here sees stuff out the door.
Right.
Run out. And so anyway, we all learned from each other, and sometimes on weekends I'd be helping them at their home garage, and so it was quite a learning process. But once I met the Cummins engineers, everything was in high gear then. And you go out to lunch. You go out to lunch with them. You're writing things down on napkins because this is phenomenal information. And you're coming home with these napkins and you're trying things.
Right. You know, you said something that caught my ear, and I'd like to just touch on that. You said, you know, you were young and you were listening to the people in front of you. And I've got to say, maybe it's just me, but I swear, I wish people would listen to people with knowledge that have done these things and what it is that they're doing that's helping them be successful, maintain their equipment, all these sorts of things. Because what we run into a lot now, and I'm gonna let's pick on millennials because it's fun, and because I don't care what you say, whatever you throw it, and of course I'm generalizing, but whatever you say to them, rather than hearing out what you're saying, halfway through it, they're speaking over you, and they're like, wait, but what I do is right, but what you're doing isn't working, so just listen to me. But what I do is, oh my God, I wish people would just start.
You feel like doing
again.
a Dr. Phil and saying, "How's that working for you?"
Right. You know, and it seems like more often than not we get that sort of thing. You know, let me jump back in here, Bruce or Pete. Mark Ollinger is asking. He says he's got a 22 kW T680 with 301,000 miles on it. Cummins X15, Eaton 12-speed auto. What should he be doing? The max mileage, oil samples, etc. What should he be doing to keep this thing?
So definitely the catalyst and the OPS, the oil samples definitely are going to extend the life of his engine. I would have the overhead set if he hasn't. Check for a boost leak, like we talked about earlier. At that amount of miles, probably get the DPF cleaned. If he hasn't ever run catalyst, he might want to clean the DPF first, or get it clean and run the catalyst because you'll start off clean. If he idles a lot, it's hard to say how much ash is in his DPF depending on how much he idles.
And I think he should do the diesel force. Then we clean the DPF. Then we put it on the catalyst. We put it on the dyno, check all the sensors, check all his parameters, make the changes that he'd like to see in the ECM. There's 1,200. That ECM has 17,000 or more parameters. We change about 1,200 of those when we do a tune.
That's just that is so much information.
I'm one of those people that I think that a lot of things are a good idea that I haven't gotten around to yet. But talk to us about the tune a little bit, because you actually ask a guy, so what's your operation, how fast do you run, all of that stuff, and then you tune their engine based on those answers, correct?
That is correct, because some guys with X15s are geared where they're at 1,600 RPM, which was a mistake. The truck should have never been ordered with those differentials, because that engine wants to be under 1,400. But we can change it so it's still pulling up at 1,500 and 1,600. And some guys want more of a response out of a throttle. I like a responsive throttle. I don't want to have to push my foot a lot. I mean, this is who's making all the noise.
Oh, there he is.
Beautiful.
He can see out the windows, and we're in the woods, and he loves to chase squirrels, rabbits, deer.
So does Charley.
Yeah, Clay, definitely squirrels. They get my attention every time.
So he's only 3 years old. He still has a lot of energy.
One of the things I always bring up is all of this stuff that we talk about. Mainly, we focus on stuff that people can do and not make their leasing company upset. I just want to stress, you're looking at I was looking at the tune for my DD15. It's a couple $1,000 to have all that done, all the analysis and getting the parameters changed and all that stuff. But the cost of ownership of having that done is next to nothing over the life of a truck. You're going to run more efficiently. You're going to spend less money on maintenance and fuel, all of that stuff. I mean, it becomes kind of a no-brainer.
So when you come in, the best way to do is come into our place. But if you're doing one through one of our, I think we have about 120 some remote tune dealers. You'll be on the phone usually with JR. JR used to be an electrical engineer, Samsung Televisions, Riverside, California. He's also a gearhead. He spends a lot of time on the dyno, and he actually drives the truck on the dyno, and he feels the rate of acceleration. So you're on the phone with him, or if you're at our place, you're in the dyno facility with him, and you talk, and he'll ask you various questions. And if there's anything about the truck that you don't like what it does, you tell him, and he'll start looking for things, and he'll say, oh, I see that. I see what's going on here. Yeah. And by the way, that ECM also is like the black box on an airplane. It tells us everything that you're doing. It tells us your percentage of wide open throttle. If you're in an accident, it tells you the speed that you were going at the time of the crash. It tells us hard braking. People that do a lot of hard braking never get fuel mileage because they don't allow the truck to coast. We had a lady with an A-Cert Cat and a T2000, and the ECM on the Caterpillar would hold 250 emergency brakings.
Wow.
Every time she came in, we had to clear it because she had it maxed out. So that was 750.
Wow.
And yet she complained of fuel mileage all the time. So when she left to pull in a drive-in, and those of you who've been to our place, we're on that 2-lane road, and it has some curves and some hills. I followed her. She was at 60 plus mile an hour. She didn't know I was behind her. She pulled out onto Route 8. She's heading south to Cooperstown, which is a quarter mile, which is a traffic light. And every shift with an empty van, that left front tire kind of wanted to come off the ground. So how do you explain to somebody like that? That's not how you drive. I don't care if it's a pickup truck pulling a boat trailer or a semi truck pulling an empty trailer. You don't drive like that. You have to drive like you have the egg between your foot and the throttle. It's
Right.
not how fast you go from 0 to 60 or 0 to 65 or 70. It's how well you can maintain that and how well you roll the truck to maintain that speed.
You know,
So I know that you guys aren't tire experts per se, but I know that you know some. And Charlie and I have noticed something on some of the newer trucks. A lot of heel to toe wear on the drives.
Almost
We
every truck I look at now.
we are an MD alignment facility, and so we do a very good job with the MD machine, and we save a lot of people's tires and increase fuel mileage. And so we've been very successful with the system. And let me say this: I used to road race a '66 Corvette, so a lot of when we knew the bank of the curves, that's how we would adjust because the rear tires you could bring in and out. And
Right.
we did it with a level on a roller. And the front tires, we would put a line around the tire and we would measure from the back of and from across the back and across the front. First time I saw Mike Beckett at one of Kevin Rutherford's CMCs, and he's out there with a string and a tape measure. I
Right.
thought, you got to be kidding me. We did that back in the 70s.
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
I knew the guy had something going, and then I started to listen to him. And he's really a sharp guy, and he's the smartest man alive when it comes to alignment and tire wear. So, and something else that's really a great item we don't talk much about is the Safety Plus. Have you heard me talk about the Safety Plus?
Huh.
It's a shock absorber that's about 3 feet long. It's got springs in it. It's got a big washer welded in the center. And if you come out of a 90-degree turn, you just take your hands off the steering wheel. The steering wheel is going to come back straight as you start to accelerate. But if you blow a steer tire, you only need one hand on that steering wheel at 70, 80 mile an hour because it takes the force and drives it right back into the axle.
Oh,
And you're
wow.
going straight on down the highway. And what are they, Pete, now? Around $800?
that sounds about right. And then a mounting kit.
Yeah, they're really easy to install. There's two U-bolts that go over your tie rod assembly and a plate that bolts on under your spring, and you put it on there, and it's got about 3/4 inch, maybe about 3/4 inch bolts. And the trick is to have the truck going dead straight, such as behind a shopping center or a mall where you do a lot of deliveries. You get the truck going dead straight. You have somebody hold that steering wheel. You get underneath. There's two U-bolts that are 9/16. You just release the tension. You might see them move a 1/16 of an inch or less.
Oh
And
wow.
if you're always on a crowned road, especially if you do a lot of 2-lane roads, you can actually set it so it'll hold the truck up on that crown. So
Hmm.
I had a T600 Kenworth 89, and I had one on it. I pulled a 39-foot fifth wheel and a 24-foot garage trailer behind it. So I was 83 feet long, but only weighed 48,800. And I worked a lot of RV shows and truck shows. I wanted to spend more time out west, and that was in 1997, 98, 99. And I was going down across the Ohio Turnpike, cruise control, set at 70 mile an hour. 68 or 70 was what I drove. And I had a chocolate bar in the back, in the bunk. And I love a piece of chocolate around 4 o'clock in the
Right.
afternoon. And I let go of that steering wheel because you know what my thought was? I'm going to run in that bunk, grab that chocolate bar, and not have to pull over and stop. And I said, man, get your head in gear because you got $250,000 tied up in this vehicle.
Right.
Don't do that. But I took my hands off the steering wheel on the Ohio Turnpike. I went 9/10 of a mile
Wow.
before I had to touch the wheel. And the only reason I had to touch the steering wheel was because the road turned.
Right.
That
Mhm.
Safety Plus holds you that well. And if you're in, like when you're on the Pennsylvania Turnpike and you come out of that one tunnel and you're going downhill heading east, it says caution curves.
Right.
And sometimes your steering wheel will want to shake on
Uh
something.
huh.
Man, it makes it dead smooth. One hand on that steering wheel is all you need. It's a wonderful item, and you ought to try it. It's called the Safety Plus, and we've been using those since we did Great American Truck Racing in 1983, 84, and 85.
Wow, that sounds very cool. Uh, so Craig Hutchinson asked, "Hey Pete, what's your recommendation on running a '23 Volvo D13 TC efficiently?"
That we really have no experience with that engine, unfortunately.
Good job, Craig. Good job. You asked the one question.
Well, let's see. What year is it? 23.
23, yeah.
That thing's supposed to be between 900, 1,000, 1,100. I personally wouldn't take it to 900, but 1,000, 11, 1,200. Do you have a turbo boost gauge? See what RPM and what speed allows you when you're on the level and the wind's not blowing with a loaded trailer, allows your turbo boost to be lowest. It might be 1,250. It might be 1,200. Maybe it's 1,300. As speed and RPM go up, if boost goes down, you're actually saving fuel.
Brilliant. Randy Shackelford said, so he runs from Denton, Texas, up into Colorado and New Mexico. So he's not out there where he can get to you. Do you guys have any other shops that you would recommend for a guy like that, or how do folks get to you, Bruce? I mean, other than the remote tuning type stuff, but as far as mechanical or something like that.
Denver, Colorado. By the way, when you're going from Denton, Texas to Denver, you are going uphill. So,
right,
you're going downhill when you're going back home. Let's see. In Colorado, up in Kremling, I have a great mechanic, but he only can work in the evenings because he takes care of Breckenridge Ready Mix. He takes care of their
nice
cement mixers by day.
Well, some of our remote tuners do have shops.
Okay.
So, I mean, they can get on our website and look at which ones have the shops and which ones. I mean, some are just tuners, but a lot of them actually have their own shop. So he can check those out. And what's nice about that is if he does need plugged in and they're not sure something, they can give us, the remote tuners will give us a call and go over like, hey, I'm running into this issue. What do you think it might be?
Gotcha. So they should go to pittsburghpower.com and reach out to you guys there. They can give you guys a call. Maybe you guys can steer them in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Bear Hunter jumped in with he'd like some pricing if possible. He's got, with his 450,000 mile truck evaluation, he's had no DPF work and no overhead done yet. He picked the truck up at 60,000 miles, October 21st. Now he's at 450,000 with a team operation. So what type of things should he get done? And
Bear Hunter's one of our, he's part of our family type of guys. So I'm just going to tell you, Bear Hunter, sell your boat first. Get rid of that.
Right.
No. Never get rid of a boat.
Dang it.
Boats are wonderful things. I've been boating for 50 years. So boats give you peace of mind and they give you a lot of relaxation when you're out in the water. So pricing for the 450,000 mile truck evaluation, we have what we call the Hawkeye report. And that's where Adam, who's 60 years old now, has been a mechanic his entire life. We call him Hawkeye because his eyes see everything. And you'll be on a creeper underneath the truck with him, and he'll come out with a whole list of stuff. That usually is about 2.5 hours. We put everything in a order as to what's the most critical as down to what's the least critical. And it gives you a sheet to work off of. What did I had a term for that sheet? Wish list or something like that. But anyway, Pete, you could answer this question better than me.
So, the overhead, we're looking at 450 for an overhead. To clean the DPFs, I believe it's to clean both DPFs is 450 plus labor to take them off and clamps. So we're probably looking in the 750, 800 mark for that to get that done. And then the diesel force, really 1450 now plus oil and filters, Bruce, I think.
Yeah, I think right.
You can always call a shop and we can do it.
1450? I thought it was like 22. Isn't there $900 worth of chemicals that go through that engine?
I didn't think it was that much. Probably the best thing would be him to actually call the shop and talk to Eric in service, and he can do an estimate for him.
Cool. Yeah, Bear Hunter said he's not getting rid of the boat. He'll get rid of kids first, is what I think I'm reading. I believe him. Mike,
where does Bear Hunter boat?
He's over there in that southern Oklahoma and North Texas region of the world, and
Okay.
he likes to take the grandkids out and get that sort of. He loves to spoil them grandkids, and I don't blame him. I don't. Mike Henderson chimed in. He said he's picking up a 2024 680 this week. You have some sort of a maintenance schedule you think he should follow?
Yeah, he says he knows what Swift's is, but he'd like to have your opinion on what you think he should be doing.
Yeah, why not? He should email it to Pete and I, and then let's look at compare what Swift has compared to what we would do.
Nice. I think that's a great thing to do.
Yeah,
we're kind of maintenance buffs, so I'd like to see their recommendation.
Yeah, one of the things that we found is so to satisfy the equipment lease is through Swiss Leasing Company IL. They have a maintenance schedule in the contract. And what we found out recently is their own mechanics don't follow that. You have to put their feet to the fire, make them do everything.
Right. It's supposed to be part of their regular. When they bring your truck in and they look at the mileage, they built the system that's going to tell them to do all of these things, right? And it was great. I went in at 100,000 miles and I walked in with my contract and their maintenance schedule. I said, I need you to do these things. And the shop foreman looked at it and said, I've never seen this before. So I called the VP. I got a hold of the VP for all of the Swift shops. He's like, no, man. He's like, thank you for letting me know. I have a complete system in place. All they have to do is plug in the mileage and it tells them exactly all of these things. And they clearly haven't been doing them, and it's an unfortunate thing. But then we're held to it if that is not maintained.
Here's what I want one of you guys to do. Write down his name and phone number.
Gotcha.
Josh Schaefer. He is the mechanic in Moberly, Missouri at Turnaround Transport. They're one of our parts dealers, remote tuners, and catalyst dealers. They run a lot of 379 Pete's with cats. He has it down to when he checks the windshield wipers.
Nice.
Wow.
And he gave me this sheet. I wish I had it. I could read it off to you. But it is phenomenal. Phone number 507-206-1078. Call him after 5 o'clock because he works for Jeff Nelson. Well, that reminds me, I owe Jeff a phone call.
Perfect. I'll put that in the show notes for people to look at later on.
Yeah, you want to see this list. I mean, it is phenomenal.
Cool.
Yeah, guys, it's important to reach out to these mechanics and shops that are well reputed. The first thing I did when I picked up my T2000 in 2007 was I went to a shop in Portland, Oregon that had a really good reputation. I sat down with the service manager and I said, okay, how do I maintain this truck? And he did exactly what you're saying, Bruce. He sat me down and we got a list. Do this, this, and this at these mileages. You know, that truck was great. 800,000 miles, no problems. Okay. I should have just bought that truck because it would have only cost you 25 grand. And I'd be way ahead of the game by now.
Yeah.
So how often does Swift want you to change your oil? It's a pretty low amount, isn't it? Mileage-wise?
50,000.
Well, I'm sorry, how much?
50,000 I know on my Cascadia. I couldn't tell you what the Cummins side is, but I know that with the Cascadia, they have me at 50,000.
So that's what OEM is in that area. But I would have guy, he wanted me to mark some stuff on the receipt because he needed it. I'm not sure who he was leased to, but they wanted the oil change at 25,000 miles.
Right, and that used to be a thing.
Okay, yeah, which is crazy because the OEM allows you, 50 or so, and you're spending money you shouldn't have to spend. And like I said, they won't let them put a bypass filter on it though.
Right, exactly. It hurts my brain, and you can't argue with them because, well, it's technically their equipment until you pay it off, right? Which is the unfortunate side of things. So I'm not picking on leases. I'm in a lease truck now. I've always been, the best way to handle things is to pay cash for a truck. I mean, let's just be real. That is reality. But we have these people, people like myself, Jeff, and many of our viewers who got their trucks through a lease. So that's what actually spurred Jeff and I doing what it is that we do is, rather than just say, hey, you guys in a lease, screw you, get out of it, go buy a truck. Save up enough money to buy a truck and do it that way. And until you do that, I don't want to hear from you. But they're here. And rather than just kick them to the curb, we decided that we're going to do everything we can to help them be as successful and profitable as we can help them to be, and service that market. Those people, those are our people. They're us.
Yeah, we have a kind of, between Charlie and I, we have kind of a motto that we're here for the forgotten masses. The people that are in lease purchase agreements, and most people, and they're not wrong, will say, oh, you're in a lease purchase, shouldn't have done that. Well, thousands of people every week sign these things. They're in them.
Yeah.
So, and Charlie and I have been successful for over 16 years leasing trucks. This truck that I'm in now is the first one I paid off, and I'm really happy I did. I'm glad I made that step. But we want to help these guys within the system that they got themselves into, and help them be profitable and do better for their families. So that's why we do what we do.
So
There's plenty of people out there. There's plenty of people out there helping people that paid cash for a truck.
Right. So I can give you. I just pulled out my contract because I keep the hard copy of all of my contract stuff in the truck, right?
Crazy.
Because I'm that guy. The maintenance schedule on my truck, which is a 23 Cascadia. So schedule 1 is performed every 25,000 miles. Lubricate and inspect chassis. Check all loop levels. Inspect and inflate tires. Check safety equipment. Drain air tanks. Check lights. Check oil in front hubs. Adjust steering axle and drive axle brakes, and check lining thickness. That's the entirety of Schedule 1, 25,000. Schedule 2 is all equipment models perform every 50,000 miles. So they're saying this is for all their trucks. Change oil and filters, change fuel filters, check the air filter indicator, check batteries, inspect belt tension and condition, inspect airlines for rubbing and trailer. Okay. Inspect tires and check for loose or missing lugs. Check clutch free travel and clutch brake squeeze. Test antifreeze to -40. Check for air leaks, pressure loss. Check suspension. Check and record an alcohol level, ppm. Change coolant filter. Check annual inspection. Inspect fan hub. Plus everything in Schedule 1. The 100,000-mile one, which is Schedule 3. This is the one that the shop foreman is like, I've never seen that before.
Mhm.
I enjoyed it.
It's a good list.
Right? He said, it says perform every 100,000 miles on all equipment models. Check kingpins and tie rods. Check front wheel bearing. Power steering filter and fluid. Check driver's equipment. Check air dryer cartridge. Plus perform complete Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 and perform air compressor performance test per DOT guidelines. And then it jumps up to 350. And of course, you're going every 25 and 50 for the previous schedules. And then it jumps up, at the 350 level, change the transmission and differential oil, up to 500,000, adjust valves, and every 750,000 miles, change transmission and differential oil. And that's the end of their maintenance.
Well, that's interesting, Charlie, because if you go to a Swift shop and ask them to do a valve adjustment, they can't do it.
Right.
So
let me make this screen bigger and see. So anybody who maybe could try to read that, I don't know if they want to see it. It's going to be up there.
So for our Swift people, that is Schedule E in your equipment lease.
Right.
Yeah. I'd like you to use our UPS. I'd like you to email that to us.
I will. I would absolutely do that without a problem. I will definitely make that happen.
That's Pete at pittsburghpower.com and Bruce M at pittsburghpower.com.
Yeah. So Jeff Morton just today told me, oh yeah, Bruce's email address, Bruce at Pittsburgh Power. So I sent you the first invite today, and it bounced back because Jeff Morton didn't tell me the M in the email address, but Craig
Yeah.
Hutchinson got me squared away. So
And,
good
and
on
tell
you,
you what,
Craig.
tell you why I had to do that. Right now, the Bruce M needs to be changed. It was Bruce, then it was Bruce 1, now Bruce M. I get probably 10 emails a day from people. Now everyone's on your e-commerce site. We can help
Right.
you with this. We can help you with that. We can,
Right.
I even get one. We can help you
Oh.
with driver retention.
Oh,
So I typed
Bruce.
back. I said, "What the hell are you talking about? I don't have any trucks on the road."
So once we got our website up and running, Bruce, we have gotten inundated with people generally from like India and China and places like that, wanting to help us with our search engine optimization
Oh yeah.
and all that stuff. And it's like, no.
But some people won't take no for an answer. They
Right.
just
Yeah.
keep coming back. So somehow my email address got out to the wrong list, and I need to change it again because I don't want to waste an hour a day going through emails that don't pertain to our clients and our industry.
Right.
Hey, I wanted to give a shout out to your people, by the way, Bruce. So for those of you that are watching, so once you are a client of Pittsburgh Power, and what that means is you bought something from them. I can, I've called with just dumb questions, and your people answer them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I buy the max mileage from you. I got the OPS from you. I buy all my filters from you. So just keep in mind, I do pay these people. Okay,
Right.
but their customer service for their customers is just amazing.
No,
You've saved me money by telling me how to do stuff that I could have spent $120 an hour to have someone else do. So
I
Right.
tell you, we don't buying a part from us. You're getting the service with the part. So when a guy calls, one of the first things I do is type his phone number in and see if he's bought anything from us. If he has, I'll spend time with him because a lot of times he'll call and say, "Hey, I had this done to my truck. It's not right. What do you think it is?" Well, when I find out that they've never bought anything from us, I'm going to give them a whole lot less time than a customer that has spent money with us, because
Right.
you got the ones that deserve.
Well, my saying is, when guys call and they want to know how they're going to rebuild their engine, they're going to get the parts from their brother-in-law. He works at an international dealership, but he wants the specs and the timing and all this. I said, let me
Right.
ask you a question. Do I ever ask you to haul a load of freight for free? Well, no. Well, you're wanting me to give up part of my day, which is way longer than 8 hours, even at my age.
Right.
I try not to work that many hours, but you want me to give up part of my day to help you for free. Now, all you got to do is be a catalyst user. If you use a catalyst, if you buy dampers and balancers from us and things like that, or come in to have overheads, we're not asking you to spend a lot of money, but you need to be a client to get our attention more.
And by the way, folks, the cheapest way to get the catalyst is to put it on subscription at Pittsburgh Power.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And then if you're me and you're silly enough to accidentally set it up on a 30-day cycle, that was great. I had 6 gallons of max mileage sitting at my house.
Well, we talked about this last time you were on, Bruce. It takes me almost 2 months to get through a gallon of max mileage at
Right.
in my operation. I'm only doing 1,800, 2,000 miles a week.
So you set the delivery up for every 2 months.
Right.
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 And that's the thing is it's so easy to go in and manage that. Like I still have 2 full gallons left right now. And it was just about to ship again. I'm like, oh crap, I gotta push that out just a little bit. So I went in, I logged into the Pittsburgh Power site and changed my subscription. I said, hey, let's make it September or October. I can't remember which one I said now, but I'm like, let's just push it out a little bit. And then by then I maybe will have gone through my back stock of cattle
Right.
because honestly, I haven't been driving enough. And I get about 30, just a little over 30,000 miles. I think the last one was 32,000 miles out of a gallon of catalytic.
And
So
so we just went to the Expedite Expo up in Fort Wayne this last
what a
weekend.
good time that was. Man, that was cool.
And you know what I found out? These Expedite guys don't know about your catalyst. They're
Yeah,
running
a lot.
they're running DD13s as the most common motor in those straight trucks. I told my accountant who has a diesel pickup that didn't know anything about it. He's got 2 trucks that he manages that are his. I told him, well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a squeeze bottle full of it. You use it in your pickup and you see what it does.
You know, we're dealing with a group that's trying to help New York City.
Hmm.
The ferry boats, they have one broken down every day.
Oh,
Wow.
Fire trucks. I talked to a fire truck company in a small town in North Carolina. They've spent $47,000 on 2 trucks this year on emissions.
oh
Wow.
my.
The guy that is there's deer. The deer are out, see, and he likes to chase
Oh,
deer.
right. That sounds right. That's great.
So anyway, how do you get through to these people? I'm also calling on a county. They have 10-ton single axle international dump trucks. And once or twice a year, every one goes back to the dealer. The minimum is $7,000. So then I started talking to some townships and I started adding up. We have 1,343 counties in the United States. And look how many townships are in a county. Everyone
Right.
has ambulance, fire trucks, dump trucks, front end loaders, excavators. Everything
Right.
has DPFs.
Oh,
I started adding up what it's costing. It's costing us taxpayers over $1 billion in keeping the emission systems running. That's money out of our pockets.
that's
How do you
insane.
get through to these people?
Right.
I've been to this one county. I've been there 6 times. Their garage is 1.25 miles from me. So I just keep going. And
Right.
they said, well, we're afraid. These are hourly mechanics that run the place, and they're afraid. But yet I have it in their personal vehicles. And they're afraid to put it in the trucks. So now I have to start next week climbing the corporate ladder. And you know
Right.
what that's like when you go into people in these big office buildings
Oh,
and
yeah.
they have all these diplomas after their name, right? And the more diplomas they have, the more they think they know. But they know
Right.
nothing about this stuff. And
Right.
so how do you explain all this to all these people that you can help? So I'm going into the local county Monday or Tuesday, and my opening is going to be, look, if I can save you $300,000 to $500,000 a year, I want free property tax.
There you go.
Right.
Isn't that fair? I'm going to save
Sounds like a
up
deal
to
to me.
$500,000. Let me save $8,000.
Right. That seems way fair to me.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. And I'm going to get his attention that way. But you know what?
Absolutely.
Then there's going to be someone higher than him. And
Right.
Peak Ready Mix, Silverthorne, Colorado. They are part of a huge cement company in the West. Oh, Bear Hunter, yeah, run the catalyst in your new Ram Cummins, absolutely.
Absolutely, Bear.
So Peak Ready Mix.
Yeah, you need it. You need it to last longer than your payments. So yes.
Yeah. So Peak
Oh, we love
Ready
to
Mix.
come in.
The corporate office is in Salt Lake City. So they're in their glass palace out there.
Right.
So I know the maintenance superintendent very well. And he tells me they buy 1,000 EGR valves every year and they replace them. So
Really?
not only do you have the cost of 1,000 EGR valves, you have the labor to replace them.
Wow.
Now, that's not the only thing that fails. What about
Right.
the DPFs and everything? So And you know what happens when a cement mixer quits running and it's loaded with concrete, right?
Yeah, bad juju
Mhm.
there.
I mean, when that stuff hardens, you're spending the next couple of days in there with a jackhammer, and I've witnessed that. And let me tell you, I feel sorry for the guys inside that
Can you
echo chamber
imagine that? Oh my god.
with a jackhammer and the dust. So every time they would get a cement mixer limping home, first thing they did was put the catalyst in, load it back up, send it out. And usually within an hour, the check engine lights are gone.
Right.
Mhm.
And so they took 5 of their divisions in Colorado, because I lived right north of Silverthorne in the wintertime. And we were running trouble-free. Their front end loaders, their cement mixers, their diesel pickups, everything was trouble-free. No breakdowns. And word came from the home office, why is your fuel bill higher than it used to be? Well, we're buying this catalyst. And this is what it's doing for us. We have 0 breakdowns, 0 emission problems. But your fuel bill's higher. But we have no breakdowns, no downtime. And they said, oh, that's snake oil. We've seen all these snake oil. And that just pisses me off.
Right.
Because
you show them the
that's
reduction
ignorance.
in maintenance.
That's ignorance talking, right?
Mhm.
So I didn't get to where I was going by saying that's snake oil or that doesn't work and that doesn't work. By the way, when I was in my early 20s, I set the track record road racing this Corvette in Nelson's Ledges, Warren, Ohio, 2.3 miles a run. And on the back straightaway, we're doing 140 miles an hour.
Nice.
I'm in my early 20s. But a young man came up to me. I never saw him before. We were in the pits. And he's looking all over my car, and he's looking at the brass bushings in the suspension. He's looking at what we did to the buggy spring in the rear. And he's telling me that none of this stuff works. I was probably 25. I said to him, you know, I hold the track record here. And I said, by the way, this was all Corvettes. I said, which Corvette's yours? He said, oh, I don't have a race car. That's my Falcon over there. He was driving a Ford Falcon, telling me that this stuff doesn't work, and I hold the track record. I mean, how can you be that stupid?
Right.
So years ago, the rule was when $1 million was a lot of money, take a self-made millionaire out to dinner, you pay, and listen to what he tells you.
Mhm.
Right? If Donald Trump wanted to go out to dinner with you, you should pay and listen to what he did and how he built his fortune.
I'd go. I'm going to say it right
Absolutely.
now. I'd
give the guy my office if we could get him into trucking.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
you know, it's when people have a closed mind, you go nowhere with a closed mind.
Right.
You know, when I wrecked my first Corvette, it was a 61. I was 19 years old. And I didn't have the money to have a body shop fix it. So I went around to 3 body shops in Western Pennsylvania that specialized in Corvettes. And I asked them, would you show me how you glue and how you repair a crack in a Corvette? I have a Rep 61 and I don't have the money to pay you. And they showed me. So I took what I considered was the best of everything that 3 different body shops did. And I came up with my own using parts of each one of those people. And I come up with a fantastic way of fiberglassing. And I fiberglassed holes in metal oil pans on Big Cam Cummins and never had it fail. You have a 1-inch diameter hole, I would fiberglass that thing. But anyway, I would, that's what I did for my second job when I was in dispatch, by the way. That's how I could afford to have a race car, because I built race cars for other people. But I would listen to people. And then when you go to a new racetrack and you see the guy that's number 1, and you go and you look over his car, and if he'll tell you, you ask him questions, what are you doing right? I mean, if you're driving a wore-out old Century or Columbia and it's on its last leg, and a guy pulls in a beautiful shiny 389 and he's looking good and he's dressed good, maybe you should buy him dinner or buy him lunch and ask him, how are you successful? If you know what he drives for his cars, maybe he has a boat, maybe the guy has an airplane, lives in a beautiful home.
Right.
Maybe you need to listen to what he says.
You know what I used to do, Bruce? When I first started driving, I just got out of the Swift Driving Academy, got through my mentorship, and started driving solo. I would go sit at the counter at Petros, and I would wear my Swift ball cap that they'd just given me in orientation, and I would wait, and someone would say something about Swift, and then some old guy that's been driving trucks so long, his first truck was one with the joystick. Those really old guys. And when they would speak up and say, "You leave him alone, he's just starting out," I would zero in on that guy and I would ask him questions. I would listen to what he had to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we definitely need to listen more. I mean, in the industry specifically, but in life in general, everybody needs to just sit back, listen. If there's something you want to do in life and you want to do it well and you want to get better at it, find those people that are doing what it is that you want to do well and listen. Like Bruce saying, buy him dinners, sit down and have a conversation. You know, there's nothing wrong with asking questions, but listen to the answers. Write it down, make mental notes, whatever it is you got to do. Start listening to people. I'm telling you,
Right.
just listening is probably one of the biggest things most people could do that would help them do better.
Now look what Craig has to say. He uses
Right.
the max mileage in his Dodge Charger Scat Pack. Is this an older Charger, like from back in the 70s?
Oh no, that's one of the new shiny ones, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, because the older ones really like it. I drive a 21 A8L Audi, 4-liter twin turbo, 450 horsepower, and I don't like it without the catalyst because you've got to push more on the throttle to make it go, and I just like the ease on the throttle. So if I can find non-ethanol gasoline
Right.
plus the catalyst, now that's a shocking difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So Randy's one of these people that's just really fascinating to talk to. And I think, Charlie, you've heard him tell this story before, haven't you?
Yep.
That you got to have lunch with Ross Pro Sr. What an opportunity that would have been.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Well,
And,
I wish he wouldn't have never dropped that. We needed him for president.
yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
Bear
hey,
Hunter,
Sean.
he absolutely does not listen to Charlie, but that's okay. Because usually when people don't listen to Charlie, they'll listen to me. And when they won't listen to me, they'll listen to him. And the
It's
funny thing is,
baffling.
Bruce, we say exactly the same thing. We
Yeah.
just have a different approach.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'll say, "You're stupid. Don't do that. Stop doing that." And Jeff's like, "Well, you know, what you need to do instead is do this," because Jeff's far more eloquent than I am. I'm that guy that likes to hit things with a hammer. And if it doesn't work, hit it with a bigger hammer, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, you're going to find the right size hammer, is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
So we're coming up on our 2 hours here, folks. I actually wanted to drop Randy's last little comment here, which I this is a great one. Biggest question he has for Bruce is, when are they going to do something about the noxious smell of the catalyst? And boy, if you spill that stuff in your truck, you will know it, and you will know it for a while.
Well, I hardly smell it. I keep it in the boat. I keep it in my Harley Davidson. I keep it in the trunk of my cars, my
Right.
pickup. So I don't notice it as much. But yeah, it would be best if you kept it outside of the truck. I mean,
Yeah.
just-
Yeah, I keep my
what
gallon
I-
underneath the bunk in the side box in the Ziploc bag that comes with it. I make sure it's sealed real well.
Yeah.
Sometimes a gallon is a little hard to seal, so really make sure it threads right. But I keep a squeeze bottle right here. I mean, it's a foot away from my face. Well, 2 feet away from my face, right now in the door, because that's where I keep the squeeze bottle, and it's always full, so I don't have to dig out the big gallon and all that, so that I can just easily get it, treat my fuel, get on down the road, and move on. I had the cap come off one time because I didn't thread it on right.
Mhm.
That made a mess. But ever since then, I've never had a problem with it, because
Yeah.
I
So
think you'll only make that mistake once.
what was your estimated maintenance savings by using the catalyst per year, do you think?
5 to 6 cents per mile.
Okay, so one of those, if you go to the Iowa 80 truck stop,
That
I've been looking at these, the toolboxes for your steps going up to your catwalk,
Right.
for the size that you need for a Cascadia, because that's what I have, it's only like $600 installed. Get one of those and put
Problem
your
solved.
catalyst in it.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
So you know why the catalyst works so well is because it stinks so bad it scares the shit out of soot and carbon.
I love
There you
it.
go.
That is
Well,
the
we had
best way I have ever heard it said, and I like that, and I'm gonna steal that, Bruce.
we had a good conversation going on our Facebook group about these different additives and the catalyst and stuff. And one of our members pointed out that if it doesn't smell caustic and give you a headache and stuff, it probably doesn't have anything in it that'll help you.
No, that's true. There is an additive out there that everybody knows about, and I asked Forrest Lucas. Forrest Lucas is a good friend of mine, and I said, "What is in this?" He said, "It's highly refined kerosene."
Oh,
And I said, "Oh, so now that's snake oil," and I won't say the name, but I will tell you what makes Lucas Oil Products great, and how Forrest came across it. Forrest has a polymer in everything he makes. And if you guys are old enough to remember years ago when you hauled produce, especially I think it was pears, there would be a waxy film on the cardboard box.
Right.
And Forrest was born and raised in Columbus, Indiana, but moved to Riverside, California, and started building his fleet. And I think he was up to 6 trucks. And his drivers were assigned a tractor, but not a trailer, and none of them would check the hub oil. And he got tired of going out in the desert and putting wheel bearings in, and he started mixing oil products together. But he was loading produce, and that waxy film was very wet and sticky, and it was all over his hands. And he asked the guy at the produce yards, he said, "What is this stuff?" He said, "We got to spray it on the boxes because it keeps preserves of fruit or whatever it does to the fruit." And the guy basically said it was a pain in the ass. And so Forrest says, "Do you know where you get this?" "Yeah, we get it from this chemical company." So he got the number. So he called and got the chemist. And he said, "My name's Forrest Lucas, and I've been mixing oil products together to try to make them slipperier. And my wife keeps track of our fuel mileage. She lets me know that, hey, fuel mileages are going up." Now, keep in mind, we're paying 45 cents a gallon for diesel.
Right.
So Forrest asked this chemist about this sticky stuff. And the guy said, "It's actually a really expensive polymer." And Forrest says, "What would happen if I put that in my oils?" And that chemist said, "That's the best thing you could do." And if you ever get a tour of a Lucas Oil plant, whether the one in Riverside or Corydon, Illinois, and you'll see they have a big chamber where they have to heat these 55-gallon drums, and then they hang them upside down over these mixers. But around the mixers, they have cardboard on the floor because remember the guy that says, "Keep on trucking" with the big feet and he's stepping out?
Uh-huh.
Well, that's what you look like whenever you're walking around those mixers, because the little bit that gets on the ground, and I mean, your feet are sticking to the floor. But that's
Lord.
the secret behind Lucas Oil Products, is that polymer.
That's amazing.
Yep.
So Mike the
So-
mechanic here said Charlie probably drinks the catalyst in his coffee every morning, and Randy followed up with it's probably in his Mountain Dew right now. You know what? It's exactly right. It fires me up and keeps me clean. Okay, don't drink
And-
this stuff.
Hey, here's what I want you guys to try. Take 1 or 2 cc's, put it on a piece of steel, and hit it with a Bernzomatic torch. It doesn't light.
Huh.
Now, put it on a piece of cardboard, 1 or 2 cc's, hit it with a Bernzomatic torch. You'll get a ball of flame this big instantly. Why
means
is that?
Because it's the catalyst. It helps it burn better. It doesn't actually do the burning itself because of molecular changes. Am I close?
I don't know.
Oh, damn it.
We did this at a school bus place. But school buses, people are going back to gasoline-powered school buses. What a mistake, because of all the emission problems. this school bus fleet we deal with, when they run out and they're out a couple weeks, the mechanics tell the owner, you better get over to Pittsburgh Power, get some more catalyst. And they're about an hour and a half away from us because we're tired. We don't want to start fixing these emission problems. That's what we
Right.
tried that. I tried that. And when we hit it with the Burns-O-Matic torch on this steel tool workbench and it didn't light, I thought, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. So then I don't know what made us try it on a piece of cardboard. It didn't burn the cardboard, but it sure did light up fast.
Huh. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, Bruce and Pete, I want to thank you guys for coming on here. Unfortunately, we do have to wrap this thing. We're coming up on our 2-hour mark, and that's our magic number every week.
Right.
We are definitely going to reach out to you guys more frequently. I do apologize. It's been so long. We've just been so damn busy. It's been crazy.
Yeah, I've been
lately.
working
We're
on
trying to
this,
get
working
there.
on that. And
Ah,
so quick promo for next week's show, because I'm excited about this one, by the way, folks. You're going to
yes.
see a cage fight between me and Charley. And we're going to be talking about our difference of opinion on leasing a new truck versus buying out the one you have. And we will have Colton Lawrence as the judge of that debate.
Right.
Trucker CFO himself. An actual CPA is going to say we're both
What are
wrong.
the lease payments on a new one right now?
$670 is what I'm paying
$670.
a week.
Right.
$670.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
With an $82,000 balloon at the end. Well, at least that's through our leasing company, through IEL, who, with our carrier and all that.
Yeah, so his total payments over the course of getting the truck and
202.
buying is $202,000 on a 23 or 22 rather Cascadia.
23.
Well, being I'm a maintenance buff, Pete's a maintenance buff, we both keep our vehicles a long time. We would say once you get it paid for, keep it.
Right. My big argument, just to give you guys a quick
Preview.
insight into next week, I'm actually debating on not paying this truck off simply because of the time frame that I'm looking at not driving a truck. I've got a lot of problems from the military, arthritis. I've got so much steel in me now, it's ridiculous. And I'm just getting to the point where I may not be able to sit behind a steering wheel, more than another 4 or 5 years. That's just reality. It's a sad reality to me. It really, really bothers me because I truly do love driving, and I love doing what it is that we do. But I'm just thinking maybe if I can get these guys to give me a brand new truck every year, which is something I'm fighting with them on right now. Look, I told my recruiter Michelle Cantrell, which is a lady who I absolutely love. I told her I will put her face and her phone number on the hood of this truck, as big as I can fit it, just to recruit for it. If she'll give me a new truck every year, she's not fighting yet, but I'm still fighting for it.
How old are you, Charlie?
I am 52 at the body of a 172-year-old. Unfortunately.
Do you stretch?
I stretch wherever I can, whenever I can, and it's back in '93 when I actually got hurt. They told me I would never walk again if I didn't let them put 2 8-inch rods in my spine to support it. 15 days later, having not had my spine and my back cut open, I walked out of the hospital with my middle finger on my left hand in the air because me and my Army surgeon were not great friends. And so I'm still upright. I'm still doing my thing. It's just getting tough and it's getting worse. And, it just leads to other things. So that's where Jeff and I are going to end up in this fight because, look, we're going to run numbers and really look at the long-term benefits of each argument. We're going to let Colton Lawrence, the trucker CFO, kind of decide that bout and see what he thinks. He's going to referee that for us. And we'll see how it plays out. So, you guys should definitely tune in next week and see how that turns out because we'll be here at Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern, like we are every week. But I think that it's going to be an interesting show because we've both got arguments to make.
Yep.
So,
And this will
you
be
run
a front row seat for you guys to actually see Jeff and Charlie disagree.
if you run the catalyst and you don't have emission problems and you maintain this truck, it basically wears out at about 5 cents a mile.
Right.
So if your truck's paid for and you set aside a nickel a mile for every mile you put on it, you will always have excess money in your maintenance account to repair that truck. And you won't be making payments. The trick is you got to set that nickel aside in a separate account. And that account doesn't buy fuel. It buys tires. It buys engine parts. It buys cab parts. It buys all the maintenance of that truck. And the average guy that does that has in excess of $28,000 in that account.
And
Boom.
that is tremendous right there. Numbers don't lie, y'all. I'm just saying, you guys know how we do this. Bruce and Pete, seriously, thank you both so much for all of, I mean, Bruce, the years that I've been listening to you. Pete, you're just a fabulous person because, I mean, look, 30 years doing this stuff plus more. Bruce, oh my God, legend, God, almost godlike. I'm sorry, people. I am a fanboy. I can't help it. You know, look, people like you, Mike Beckett, Kevin Rutherford. Look, I'm telling you, I will be this mush mouth, tongue tied guy. Oh my God, they're here. I can't believe we're talking to them because, look, I mean, the reality is, I would not be in the position I am today. I would not be in business had it not been for people like Kevin Rutherford, Bruce Mallinson, and Mike Beckett. You know, I walk around and I'm known for molesting people's tires, Bruce. I walk up to random people's tires and I just start stroking them.
We did it on a show truck at the expo we were just at.
Oh,
I saw this guy's tires on a show truck. And I said, Charlie, come here, look at this. And we're all rubbing his tires. We're like, hey, you got an alignment problem here.
This guy had so many problems with this alignment right now, and I just wanted to talk to him, but he didn't really want to hear. He was embarrassed by his tires. I'm like, don't be embarrassed. There's some learning we could do here, and we could teach some people some stuff. And he just wasn't having it, but that's fine.
You should see when a person comes to our shop for the first time and they're really proud of their truck and they'll tilt the hood, and Pete and I and some of the other guys will walk out and we'll start walking around and we'll look at each other's eyes, you know, and we'll think, wow. Okay.
Right.
The first thing I look at is hose clamps. You got to line up those hose clamps.
Right.
And the second thing is you don't buy 1-inch heater hose and use it to carry hot air or hot oil. It's made to carry hot water, hot antifreeze.
Right.
So hoses are made for different places. One hose doesn't do everything.
Hey, Mike the mechanic, Pittsburgh Power Rules. He says, we agree. Bruce, Pete, thank you guys so much. Hey, guys, I'm going to give you a quick little snippet of something that is live now in our private community out there. You can go check that out if you'd like to. If you'd like to join the community, all you got to do is go over to contractorscorner.cc, or you can go to contractorscorner.network. There's a way to sign up. Yes, it's a fee. There is an annual membership to that thing. But we believe that the value we're providing there far exceeds what we're going to charge you on an annual basis. So check it out. I'd like you to check out this I'm just going to give you a little taste of this thing on an interview that we did with Colton Lawrence about some things that he's got going on. And I'm going to cut to that right here. If I can make things work and technology doesn't tear me up, because sometimes technology is not my friend. So I'm going to put this up. Let's see if it goes. Bruce, Pete, thank you again so much. We will be in touch with you very soon. And I did email you that maintenance schedule already. Both of you have that in your email.
Okay. Hey, how many people are on the show right now?
Usually we have tens and tens of people.
Tens and tens. I think we did 25 or 30 at our peak today. Several hundred more throughout the week will definitely watch, and I'm thinking it may go better than that. We'll see.
Okay, wonderful.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much, guys. And guys, here's just this little snippet. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Hey, we're here at the Expedite Expo 2023 in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We're here with Trucker CFO. Of course, I've got Jeff, myself, Charlie, and Trucker CFO, Colton Lawrence. Colton's put out a whole new batch of information for everybody, and I'm going to let Colton tell you about that.
Yeah, well, thanks. Happy to have you guys here. appreciate you joining me in my booth, and I'm happy to be on with you guys right now. So we've just released the Trucker CFO's Comprehensive Business Guide Part 1. It's a mouthful, but it's got a lot of good information in it, and it's a follow-up to the Trucker CFO's Guide to Tax Season, another mouthful.
Right.
And difference being with the Guide to Tax Season, it's all taxes, right? Everything that you guys should know as owner-operators about taxes, things you should think about to save yourselves money on taxes. With the Comprehensive Business Guide, Part 1, we're diving into more about the industry itself. We're covering topics such as choosing a business entity and the S corporation, but we also go into information like what options you have out there for sourcing freight, what options you have out there for picking equipment, maintenance, things of that nature that people should really contemplate in running their business and how they can be successful.
That right there, folks, is just the quickest little snippet I could share with you. It's right now, that whole interview is live over there in our Contractors Corner community. And I want to give a shout out because that was professionally produced, not by me. Clearly, you guys can see that was not my editing work. Rick Johnson was our camera dude, and that guy has the most amazing equipment. And I want to give him a shout out. He's the owner of 2 Mile Post Productions, 2milepost.com. The guy does amazing work, and I got jokes about that, and we're going to talk about that later at another time because that guy is amazing. Like seriously, that guy was so much fun. We had a good time with him. And Greg Thompson, producer, who produced all that. He was the guy that put this all together for us. Greg Thompson, he's the founder and principal of Missing Word Solutions LLC, and he's also the executive producer of Pod Wheels, powered by Radio Nemo, podwheels.com, or missingwordsolution.com. I want to give a shout out to those guys because they seriously helped us out a lot. We met a lot of really cool people at that Expedite Expo, and hopefully we're going to be putting out some videos and some pictures and stuff like that coming up. And we will see you guys soon. Jeff, you got anything else you want to throw out?
I'm spent, man. That was a heck of a show. I really enjoyed talking to Bruce.
Right, there's just so much. There's never enough time, but we will definitely
Next
get them
time,
back, folks.
Next time we need to ask him about the fast system. We never get to that.
I know, right? Oh God.
And we could talk about that later on in the private group in Mechanics Corner, which is one of our spaces there, about the fast system and the air dog and what that can do for you, because I've been learning more about that too.
So you guys, thank you for joining us. We appreciate everything you guys do for us. Again, thanks to Bruce and Pete. Those guys are amazing. Seriously. I want to just tell you guys, be careful out there. There's some craziness I've seen going on today, and be careful where you're parking and look, I idled all night last night because I probably should not have stayed at the truck stop I stayed at. It was just not a safe and fuzzy place, man. We ended up rolling the windows, locking the doors, and I didn't sleep worth a damn. So, you know what? You guys watch out, keep each other's backs covered, get out and help somebody if they need help. Don't just get your camera out and make jokes and reels.
And I see there's some guys that are saying hi that maybe came to the show a little late. When the replay posts, go back and watch the whole show. This one was
seriously absolutely worth it.
If you pay attention to what Bruce and help me out, Charlie, Pete,
you and names,
saying,
I love it.
Yeah, it's me and names. What Bruce and Pete were saying, it changes the calculus on truck ownership. Absolutely. The price per mile over the life of a truck is a lot lower than what we thought it was with these newer trucks. So check it out. Go back for the replay. Leave comments in the replay because that actually helps us out. We'll go back and check them throughout the week and answer any questions you guys have about the show.
Absolutely.
And yeah, great show.
We will be back here next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. You guys stay safe. Take care of each other. We appreciate you showing up and spending time with us. We will see you soon. You guys stay safe. We're out. I don't know how to stop talking. I'm going to hit the button.
Boom.